the regular meeting of the Administrations and Public Works Committee. We have a quorum, and could we have a motion for the approval of the minutes of August 8th?
Motion to approve.
It's been moved in second. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Items for consideration, beginning with A1. City of payroll through August the 14th, 2011 is $2,745,227.46. And payroll through August the 28th, 2011 is $2,590,693.33. Is there a motion?
I move approval. Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions, concerns? Not. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A2, City of Evanston's bills through 9/13/11, $4,575,116.80, and credit card activity through July 31st, 2011, $101,491.79.
I move approval of our bills through July 31st.
Okay, what about our credit cards?
And the credit cards.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. It's been moved in second. Are there any questions or concerns? Not. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. A3, approval of a contract awarded to DEM Services Incorporated for the Evanston Water Utility Asbestos Abatement Phase 2, bid 12-55. Staff recommends that City Council authorize the city manager to execute a contract for asbestos abatement Phase 2 at the water utility with DEM Services Incorporated in the amount of $27,530.20. Funding for this work will be from the Water Fund, account 733-095.65515. This capital improvement account has a budget of $50,000 specifically allocated for the engineering and abatement associated with this project. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Are there any questions, concerns? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A32, approval of contract awarded to Mechanical Concepts of Illinois Incorporated for the Service Center for Air Unit Project bid number 12-12. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the city manager to execute a contract for the Service Center Fleet Services Makeup Air Unit Replacement Project bid 12-12 to Mechanical Concepts of Illinois Incorporated in the amount of $102,350. Funding will be provided by Funding Year Capital Improvement Plan account 416427 in the amount of $85,000, and from the General Fund account 2615.62446 in the amount of $17,350. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. It's been moved in second. A3.3, I'm sorry. Approval of the contract awarded to Office Concepts for a 3-year office furniture supplier contract. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the city manager to execute an office furnish supplier contract with Office Concepts in response to RFP 12-31. The contract will be valid for 3 years, beginning January 1, 2012. Funding will be provided by individual departments as budgeted annually for furniture replacement.
I move approval of A3.3. Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
A3, I'm sorry, any opposed? A3.4, approval of contract award awards to Utility Dynamics Corporation for SNAP Lighting Project Bid 12-53. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the city manager to execute a contract in response to bid 12-53 to award the Darrow Avenue, that's Simpson Street to the north dead end, the Safer Neighborhood Area Project SNAP lighting contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Utility Dynamics Corporation in the amount of $52,839.75. Funding for this work will be from the Community Development Block Grant, CDGB 5170.62780 in the amount of $50,807, and the Traffic Operation Fund 2640.65515 in the amount of $2,032.75.
I move approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Okay. Alderman Rainey.
Alderman Holmes.
Yes.
Is the amount afforded by the Community Development Block Grant from last year's allocation, or is it going to be presented for this year?
I think this is last year. Paul, could you address, or
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think it's a combination of both. It's both.
So some
Last
of
year
this
and-
money actually hasn't been acquired yet or approved.
It's last year. No. It's last year and this current year. It's not for next year.
Paul Schneider, City Engineer. Yeah, Alderman Rainey, this particular project was approved last year for $40,000. There was actually leftover, a rollover amount from the prior job on Jackson in the amount roughly around $10,000. So using those two combinations, we came up with this first total of the $50,807, and then we looked to another fund to make up the other $2,000.
So it's money that we already have.
That's correct. It's already been approved, yes.
But it wasn't approved as a SNAP project, the balance of the 50,000. It was in a fund that had not been spent on some other project in that neighborhood, is that right?
It was approved as a SNAP project the prior year, $10,000 of it, for the Jackson job that was done
I
last
understand.
year. So the residual of that account then rolled into this year.
Are there any other questions? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? A 3.5, approval of a contract awarded to D-Land Constructions for 2011 block curbs, sidewalks, and ADA curb ramps. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the city manager to execute a contract in response to bid 12-54 to award the 2011 block curb, sidewalk, and ADA curb ramp program to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, D-Land Construction, in the amount of $361,976.40. Funding for this work will be from the CDGB Fund 5170.62780 and 5170.63030 in the amount of $220,000, and the Special Assessments Reserve Funds account 6365.65515 in the amount of $141,976.40. Is there a motion?
I move approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? A 3.6, approval of contract award for the Economic Development Consulting Services to KANE and McKean, Kane and McKenna and Associates Incorporated. Staff in the Economic Development Committee recommends City Council authorize the city manager to execute a contract in response to RFP 12-39 for consulting services pertaining to the economic development activities for Kane and McKenna and Associates with the special consultant for the amount not to exceed $80,000. Funding will be provided by the Economic Development other consulting services, account 5300.62185. Is there a second? Are there questions? Alderman Burrs.
I would like to hear from the economic development team. Are we incapable, do we not have the expertise to do this work in-house? So why are we going out of consultants? I know it's a lot of money, and I'm happy to say, yes, we should go forward if we absolutely cannot do this. And is this work important for putting together a long-term economic development strategy? So I would like to hear that from you. Thanks.
Good evening. Nancy Razovich, the Economic Development Division Manager. In response to the first question, in terms of whether or not we have in-house capacity, although Johanna Knight, one of our former planners, had done this in a previous career, as well as Paul Zalmazak, our new planner, it's a significant amount of time and hours that is involved to look at whether or not a TIF district is appropriate, whether it can be created, and all the related studies that need to be done. And it's really not something that we do not have the capacity in terms of the time to be able to do this kind of work in-house. In terms of the need, because of Evanston Plaza recently having been sold or come out of receivership, Bank of America's taken over. We expect them to put that out to, hopefully, to bid soon to try to get a developer to take that, as well as the Chicago and Maine project for the office building. We need some economic development tools to make sure that we can partner with whoever the developer is for Evanston Plaza, as well as the potential developers for Chicago and Maine, to actually move those projects forward. So part of this is to look at the potential for the possibility of creating TIFs so that we can have some economic development incentives for those sites/projects moving forward, as well as looking at how some of those TIFs, particularly like the Evanston Plaza, fits in with the existing West Evanston TIF. So it's something that we really think we need to do as we move forward and get a better handle not only on those projects moving forward as well as the existing TIFs.
Alderman, does that answer you, Alderman Burrs? Alderman Rainey?
Well, I would agree with what Nancy says, but also I think it's important to note that we've not made any mistakes on our TIFs. We've been very careful in identifying them and developing them. And we've always used outside eyes to do that. I don't believe, I mean, every time I talk to these TIF consultants, there's some new little twist or nuance in the law that we didn't know about. Their time is so worth it in terms of walking us through the hoops. We might not be in a position to do 2 new TIFs. We might not, I mean, there might be reasons that they will see that we shouldn't, end a TIF in advance. I would much rather go with people who do this all the time than stress our staff who is, out morning, noon, and night, and I don't feel does have the capacity. I think they have the smarts, but I don't think they have the capacity. There's only so many hours in a day. So I feel very confident about this, and I have no expectation of the outcome because I'm waiting for their advice. So.
Peter.
Alderman,
Okay.
you are, okay. No other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving along. A4, accept and place on file for the FY 2010 and 11 audited annual financial report. Staff recommends that the City Council accept and place on the City of Evanston's funding year 2010-11 audited annual financial report. The full report is available at the website www.cityofevanston.org/transparency-financial-reports/.org.
Move approval. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if you were finished. Second.
Yeah, I think I got it right. You know, I'm not a techie, so I may have missed something. It's been moved to second. Are there any questions?
Yeah,
Oh,
I wanna-
Alderman Rainey and
I
Alderman
want to know,
Grover.
is the auditor here? Could they introduce themselves, and could they talk to us about this? I found some of this extremely disturbing, and wait, you're not the auditor.
I was going to introduce them for you.
We know who you are.
I was worried you were doing this behind the scenes. No. I know that one of the things that auditors always tend to do with us is that if we've got some horrible thing that we're doing, they attempt to make light of it so we don't get embarrassed. And it seems that there are some things that continue to take place in our audits, and I would just like to hear from you.
Members of the committee, Marty Lyons, treasurer, and I'd like to introduce, we have John Rossi, one of the partners from the firm. John was not on the audit as much as some, and we can also have more folks back. We knew that this agenda was going to be fairly lengthy tonight, so we are happy to have questions and do as we did last year with written comments and written responses for any questions or concerns that members of the committee or members of council may have.
Good evening. I'm John Rossi. Do you have any specific questions you want to know, or do you want me to go over the management letter, or what would you like me to
I'd
do?
like you to go over the management letter, and in addition, the additional audit, the recommendations regarding the collector's office.
Okay. So you have a copy of the management letter in front of you by any chance? Or? There's some comments in here. There's two material weaknesses, which is, first of all, there were two recommendations based on the control system within the city. The first one is on approval of journal entries. The individual who can approve journal entries always has access to make journal entries as well. So that's not a perfect control system. That's considered a risk, and that's why that's a recommendation. The second comment in the material weaknesses has to do with the restatement of financial statements. The city issued some bonds to pay off that IMRF early retirement incentive that came up a few years earlier, but the liability for that cost had never been recorded. So there was a restatement to record that liability as of the beginning of the year. It actually relates back to 07, 08, and 08, 09. So, but I don't think the auditors that were out here were aware that there was a liability out there until the bonds actually got issued. And nobody within the city had recorded that liability.
Can I ask you about that?
Sure.
Alderman Holmes, can I ask?
Yes, please go ahead.
That's a little over my head.
Okay.
I can do all the adding and subtracting. But how did that, and I'm considering it an oversight, I don't know what the technical term is, how does that affect what we see on the bottom line of, say, the following year's budget? How did that?
My understanding of what happened, and please, I wasn't on the audit, so the people that were on the audit are at a conference, and that's why I'm here. But my understanding of what happened was that there was some early retirement incentives granted, and a number of employees elected to take them. But the liability resulting from paying that incentive was never recorded. So when the bonds were issued to pay the incentive, the liability had to be recorded, and it was recorded because the liability was incurred prior to the 2/28/11 fiscal year. It was actually recorded as a prior period adjustment and restated the beginning fund balances.
So it's not a matter that it wasn't recorded. It's not a matter that it wasn't recorded, it's when it was? Is that it?
Go ahead.
Alderman Rainey, when we did the early retirement incentive, the amount of the liability, when we chose to defer payment of the incentive over 10 years, was recorded at IMRF, and then we paid a surcharge on our IMRF rates. So if you will, our annual debt service was paid each year. The additional amount that we owed IMRF was put in our IMRF rates, and we paid it each year, but we did not record the liability as a debt. It was just incorporated into our new IMRF rate. The previous audit team did not note that issue, although we did have clear indication in previous audits that we did an early retirement incentive and that we were paying an additional rate. When we did the bonds, it became very clear a new debt, if you will, existed. Not unlike our police and fire pension, we don't have the $100+ million of the amount owed into the fire and police pension funds recorded as a debt on our books. And so we also didn't have that IMRF debt recorded on our books, but we did make payments towards it. Once we actually turned that debt into bonds, it had to show up in on our financial statements as an $8 million liability.
But this was a little different because it was the incentive money, was it not? This wasn't the money that people were entitled to when they retire, their pension money. This was an incentive extra money, right?
Correct. And the actuarial value of those 5 years for 69 people was originally in excess of $9 million. And when we did the debt, it was $8 million. We had paid down a fair amount of the debt in the previous year and a half. So when we did the debt, and also we reduced the amount owed because we went from a 7.5% interest rate charged by IMRF on that money down to what we issued at was about 2.7%. So that equated to some savings by turning it into real debt. We saved a large amount on the interest calculation that IMRF was going to keep charging us for a 10-year period.
So the fact that it wasn't initially recorded and something caught by auditors, would you call that an oversight, or?
I would call it a difference of opinion on whose liability was it. Was it the city's liability, just as the police and fire pension funds? We don't record that as a bond liability. It changes every year, the amount of our liability. So in the case of IMRF, we knew we were paying the payments, the additional early retirement incentive payments, but it was not listed as a debt on the books.
But it certainly was. I mean,
it certainly is an amount owed by the citizens of Evanston.
well, thank you for catching it. We always want to know that we're more in debt than we expected.
We have Alderman Grover and then Alderman Burrs. Are you okay? Right. Okay, go ahead, Alderman Burrs.
Actually, Marty, don't sit down. Sorry, this is to you. I guess it's going along the same lines as where Alderman Rainey was going with this. So I'm still I understand why you did what you did. I'm not sure that it was the best call of judgment because in that we aren't really showing all of our debt then. And how would that have positively or negatively affected our credit rating had we shown that $8 million in debt? And I guess I'm just, as you know, I'm against issuing bonds. We have way too much debt as it is, and then to now be alerted to that there's even more than we initially thought, and we're still keep borrowing money. And I know you're saying it's not an oversight, it was deliberate, which is a little actually worse for me than if it had been an oversight and we didn't mean to do it. But I'm just wondering where did this judgment call come from that we would, it's almost like we're pretending like we don't have the $8 million in debt that we really do. So I don't know if there's really a question in there. It's more of where is the judgment call? Thanks.
Yes, Alderman Burris. As far as the judgment calls, we rely on the Governmental Accounting Standards Board for the regulations and standards that we use in fairly presenting the city's financial statements. And to reach out a little in the future, within about a year or two, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board is going to say that all of our pension debt, which now exists in note number 9 in our books, but not in any of our balance sheets, will in the year 2013 go on our balance sheets. So by that same logic, we didn't put any of this pension debt for police and fire, so why would we have the pension debt for IMRF on our books? It was also clearly disclosed in our all of our meetings with Moody's, Fitch, in any bond rating. I would clearly disclose all of that information, and we did actually have a ratings increase during this time frame. So they were aware of our early retirement incentive because it affected a lot of our operating books. They could see it. We lost so many employees.
Okay. I'm just concerned, as always, about the transparency in our numbers, and many times the way things, our finances are presented are done in a way that are, I don't want to say deliberately confusing, but aren't as straightforward as they could be for the public to understand truly how much debt we really have, because we talk about a variety of different funds, and we have this pension fund, and we have bond debt, and we have this debt. Really, to have a much cleaner way of explaining to the public how much of a financial crisis we really are in would be helpful, rather than to put the 8 or 9 million to the side and say it's not there when it really is. I believe we owe that to the public to make it extremely clear where we stand. Thank you.
Any other? Alderman Rainey?
I've always told the public to read the financial statement. That's
Right.
where the action is. I want to know about the other funds that are showing here. Are those dollars related to the early retirement incentive also, the parking fund? Let's see, what else is it? The water, sewer, and parking fund?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so that money was spread through those. Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions?
Wait. A lot of stuff here. Could you talk about, you mean on this specific thing? Or is he finished?
We're still on A4, yeah.
No, but I mean on the
Anything
ERI.
on A4.
How about talking about, are we finished?
No, we're not. We're just waiting for you.
I want to know about the controller's office, or the, what do you call it? The collector's office.
And we will be happy to also revisit this if my answers aren't satisfactory. Mr. Rossi,
But I wanted to talk to the auditor. I mean, I know we know, but I wanted.
well, and we do have it in writing, and if it's the committee's preference, I would like to then hold this in committee and bring it back to you with the auditor who worked on the cash and revenue audit. And this was our procedure last year, was that we got it to the council with 4 days as an introduction, and then you had 2 weeks and 4 days, and that was our anticipated process
But
this
it
year as
looked
well.
like you wanted us to take this, approve it, and put it on the
That is our
shelf.
standard language
Okay.
for this.
Just trying to do what I'm told. All right, so may we hold this, Madam Chairman?
Absolutely.
All right,
So this will be held in committee?
yeah, because
Okay.
hold it in committee, right? I mean, there's no reason to,
Madam Chair,
No.
Alderman Rainey, if the committee just has a final question regarding the cash audit that was done in the collector's office, which was something we initiated as staff. It was not part of the normal engagement. It was an additional engagement because certainly my past practice as a city manager has been every few years you need to go around and look at your other internal processes, and cash collection is always one you want to look at to make sure that your procedures are done so you have a third party come in. If we can answer a couple of questions on that, and if the committee's satisfied to send it forward to the council, we'd be happy to conclude the matter this evening.
well, I mean, I understand we asked for this, but you asked for it because you wanted to know what was going on, and now we know what's going on.
And we have
Can we have a
representatives from the
conversation?
auditor here who can talk to their findings. Was that your
I
preference,
just
Madam
think
Chair?
we probably should have waited to do the audit until the people who did the audit were here to talk to us.
Well, we can talk about it this evening. I mean,
But you're not the people, I wanted we pay these people a whole bunch of money to do it. and-
Okay, well, again, we have it in writing. We can answer general questions. As Mr. Lyons said, we can come back and do specific questions if you'd like.
Well, I read every word of it, but I thought we could have a conversation with the people who actually did it. If you're resistant to that, I'll be glad to wait.
Again,
So what is your
the
pleasure?
firm is represented. We feel that they can speak. Again, this is something that's very standard in government operations. You can certainly speak to your experience and others, and you can speak to the findings, because mostly it's findings regarding cash handling, and those are challenges that every community has on one level or another. So we have folks that can speak to that. If you absolutely want to have the individual junior accountants that talk to our staff, we can hold this in committee and come back another time.
Is that your, okay, Alderman Burrs?
City Manager, is there a time constraint on this? Is there a reason why
No.
it would be a problem to hold it?
We just be sensitive to your time, that's all. If you'd like to hold it, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not going to run up against a particular deadline. Thank you.
No, this engagement was one of our own making, and there's no statutory requirements attached to that.
Thank you.
Well, we have 598 pages to cover tonight, and a demand by the public to speak until they're finished. And so maybe it wouldn't be a good idea to continue, because we have lots of to do.
And
on
we'll be
this.
happy to come back at the first opportunity. The auditors who did the work are
The
available.
junior auditors.
That's correct.
The ones who know all the.
So so Alderman Rainey, am I hearing you saying you really want to talk to?
I really do. I'd like to,
Okay.
about that and others. I've got like every other line. I have a lot of questions.
All right, so then we'll hold this in committee?
Very good.
All right, moving ahead. We don't need a motion, I don't.
Very good.
We don't need a motion to hold it. Okay, so this is going to be held in committee. Moving on to A5, Resolutions 50-R-11, authorizing the lease of space within the city service center to the Evanston Community Media Center. Staff recommends that City Council approve Resolution 50-R-11, authorizing the city manager to lease space within the city's service center to Evanston Community Media Center, ECMC, from October 1, 2011 to September 30th, 2014, due to budget constraints, including reductions in the allocations received from the city. ECMC has been looking for a more affordable location to house its PEG channel operations.
Move approval?
Second.
Okay, Alderman Rainey.
In reading through this, among other things, but one thing that I'm concerned about, I know we covered this once before. The current lease is $94,000 a year, right? And it expires in November 2012. Is there an escape clause in that? I remember having this conversation. About 6 months' notice or something, I can't remember. It's not covered in here, I don't think. I looked for it.
We discussed it during budget.
I know
time.
we did, but I can't remember. My head is.
Mr. McCray is going to address it.
Thank you. Joe McRae, Interim Assistant City Manager. We did do some work. The Law Department looked into helping ECMC with regards to looking at opportunities to escape the current lease. I'm not sure that was ever found. What I do have here with me is the Executive Director, Steve Bartlebaugh, who can speak to his efforts in terms of where they stand with the current property manager and what they have in place.
Committee, thank you. Your memory serves you well. There was talk about an out clause. Unfortunately, the out clause had to be met at a certain date. We didn't have any finality to it, so we weren't able to do that. We are currently under a lease that doesn't expire until next year, but our landlord is well aware of the situation we're in right now, meaning that we have to basically be out of that lease. We put in an offer for that. He literally is waiting to hear what happens tonight, but we are hoping to obviously pull out of that so that we're only under one lease, which will be with the city.
Are we going to are you going to get a penalty for leaving? I mean, what is the deal?
There isn't anything, yeah, there would be if we were to leave currently.
Pardon
It's
me?
not specified in the lease as to what it is, but we do have the ability with the current lease to try to negotiate something where if we leave, basically what we were looking at is an offer of a free month of rent when we leave in December in return for being let out of the lease early.
Wait.
I'll call up the auditor.
It's $94,000 a year,
Yeah,
the lease. It expires in November 2012. We've missed the notice deadline, right?
correct.
Okay. This is 1 year left on this lease. Let's forget about October. 1 year left. What is your financial obligation if you leave, because our lease shows September 15th, right?
Right, yeah, that was also one of the things that we were talking about, is making sure that the dates were correct on this. Yeah, and theoretically, we were hoping to actually be out of our building and into the new building after the end of November, and in theory, being able to give an extra month's rent to be out of the lease early. Again, still don't have a definitive from our current landlord. That is what we're waiting on. But again, he's obviously waiting on this situation, whether or not
But
we
why
have
is
a
he
place to
waiting
go.
on this? What's it got to do with him?
Which part, our current landlord?
Yeah.
Well, if he knows that we do have a place to move and there's a reason for letting us out early, we have about a 22-year relationship with them, so there's hope that they'll be able to allow us out at this time.
But we're not going to negotiate that release prior to signing a new lease? I mean, that's not familiar way for me to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, this isn't the typical situation for us either, but, and again, because
Did
there's
he
two
say,
separate
if
leases.
you find another place, I will let you out free and clear?
Never specifically those words, but the window was left open, as in, we know that you guys have cuts and that you're not going to have the money to stay here, so what can we do? And we said, well, we're willing to give you an extra month's rent if you'll let us out early. Will you agree to it? Well, let's see what happens with this contract first, whether you have a place to move.
That, I know it makes sense to some of my colleagues here, but boy, I want to make sure my next lease is with him.
Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Bartlesbaugh, does this put us closer to ECTV being self-sustaining, self-funded?
Yeah,
such
theoretically,
that-
the idea is that obviously there's monies coming in currently still from the cable franchise that comes back towards us. The theory is that this is basically a 5-year turnaround that allows us to build as a nonprofit and be hopefully taking no money, obviously, from the council by the end of that contract.
The franchise fees would then come back to us for our general fund
Correct.
as our revenue.
Right, that's what we're working towards.
Sounds good.
Are you considering doing any advertising?
We're actually in that situation where we've done a lot of unearthing of what we can and cannot do this year in regards to being a nonprofit and a 501c3. Underwriting is allowed, obviously sponsorship's allowed. In some ways, we're looking at the models of when Channel 11 and PBS turned around in the 80s. That's the sort of area that we're looking at to try to create that. But there are also a lot of other potential things out there. You know, things like if we broadcast via the web, which we do, are we able to actually do things on there that we can't do on television? So we're definitely trying to find ways to create that. But there are a lot of areas, I think, that have been untapped that now are on the table, which is a very good sign.
Alderman Burrs.
Steve, thanks I know you've been working hard with the city manager to try to figure out a solution, and I really appreciate your willingness to be flexible and to keep carrying this forward. Thanks.
Thank you, and thanks to the folks of the city who have been really accessible for this to happen. Obviously, we had in mind wherever we could find that would work, and in this case, we found people we wanted to work with, a location we liked, and the capability of still providing almost all the services that we currently have.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, A6, Resolution 52-R-11, appointing a director and alternate director to the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County Board of Directors. Staff recommends City Council consideration of Resolution 52-R-11, which appoints Mayor Tisdall to serve as Director of the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County, with City Manager Bobkowitz as alternate director, with terms to expire April 30th, 2013, or until a successor is appointed.
Move approval.
Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? A7.
Does the mayor know we just appointed him?
I think she knows. A7, ordinance 69-0-11, authorizing the sale of surplus fleet vehicles owned by the city of Evanston through OBENAUF Auction Services Municipal Equipment Auction. Staff recommends that the city council authorize the city manager to publicly offer for sale through public auction various vehicles and equipment owned by the city based on ordinance 69-0-11. The vehicles and equipment are presently out of service or will be in the next few weeks and are assigned to various divisions and departments within the city of Evanston. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Are there any questions, concerns? It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A8, ordinance 65-0-11, amending subsection 3-5-6-0 of the city codes to increase the number of Class O liquor licenses from 2 to 3 to permit issuance to ALDI's Incorporated at 2211 Oakton Street. Local Liquor Commissioner recommends City Council adoption of ordinance 65-0-11, ALDI's Incorporated has paid the annual Class 0, or Class O, I should say, I'm sorry, liquor license application fee and provides a proof of surety bond and liquor liability insurance at the July 13th Liquor Control Review Board meeting. The commissioner and the board members voiced concern over applicants' plans for placement of the beer and wine for sale. Section 2 of the ordinance 65-0-11 conditions ALDI's license and compliance with recommendations from the Evanston Police Chief Eddington regarding placement. Is there a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Are there any questions or concerns? Alderman Rainey.
Just for information, I asked the chief for information regarding shoplifting experience at Aldi's. I'm very curious as to what their policy is. I know some stores are more aggressive and out there in terms of, reporting shoplifting. Some are not. And I was concerned that maybe Aldi's didn't always report. They have such a skeletal staff there. I'm very much in favor of them having this license, but I'm just curious as to what is their policy regarding shoplifting.
I saw the chief earlier.
But I can get it later. I don't need it now. I just wanted you to know that I asked.
Oh, okay.
Madam Chair, Alderman Rainey, the chief is not here. If you'd like, you can pull this from consent to ask the question. I think Corporation Counsel Farrar has been a participant as far as the liquor board meetings have been concerned. He may have additional information.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Grant for our Corporation Counsel. Alderman Rainey, we at the most recent local liquor control commission meeting discussed issues of shoplifting relative to retail establishments. What we're going to do at Mayor Tisdall's behest is institute a protocol for board review and we will be requesting information from these retailers regarding shoplifting. And if there is an issue that identifies and presents itself, we fully intend to bring the applicants, the licensees before the board and inquire as to, are there problems, are there issues, are there things that need to be addressed. So I do know that was a topic of discussion. I believe that a letter to that effect will be issuing from the mayor, if it is not already.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay,
Actually, my concern didn't have to do with their selling liquor. It had to do with the different policies around town of different establishments regarding shoplifting, because you hear from time to time that a specific store has, the worst shoplifting of any of their stores, and then others you hear nothing about. And so I was simply curious as to whether or not they have an issue there.
All right, well, maybe we can get that information at another time, just as an
Yeah,
update.
it's
Okay,
not,
great,
this is just for introduction, isn't it?
absolutely. Okay, any other, any? Could you put your mic on? I don't think it's on.
Just to know if there's anyone here that can answer where the liquor is going to be placed in the store. It says in the front of the store. And
Alderman Braithwaite, I believe a memo from Chief Eddington in the packet, I can pull it up, but I believe the chief's memo indicated exactly where. It was going to be in the retail area next to the registers, such that somebody couldn't just jump and hit out the store. So it was based upon an inspection of another Aldi and his discussions with the site manager at this Aldi in this location.
They, the memo said that they moved it based on his interaction with them.
Okay.
it just says it would be a supplement to the
Right.
liquor packet.
Well, maybe, again, just an update, because we don't want to hold this up, but we
Yeah.
can get update from the chief in terms of
Yeah,
both of those
there's
questions.
not a rush.
Right, okay? All right, so,
The two interns
all in,
don't speak.
it's been moved in second, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. A10, ordinance 73-0-11, amending subsection 3-5-6C of the city code to increase the number of Class C liquor license from 25 to 26 due to change in license class for Peter Mills Productions Incorporated, doing business as the Chef Station at 915 Davis Street. The local liquor commissioner recommends adoption of ordinance 73-0-11 on August 11th, 2011. The Liquor Control Review Board met and voted to recommend an increase in the number of C liquor license due to a change in license class for Chef Station. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved in second. Are there any questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
A11, ordinance 74-0-11, amending subsection 3-5.
Madam Chair? Skip A9.
Oh, I'm sorry. Back up.
It's reduced.
Otherwise, I'll be without.
I had checked it off. I'm sorry. Messed up my own system when I turned the page. I'm sorry. Ordinance 72, this is A9. Ordinance 72-0-11, amending subsection 3-5-6D of the city code to decrease the number of Class D liquor licenses from 24 to 23 due to a change in license class for Peter Mills Productions Incorporated, doing business as Chef Station, 915 Davis Street. The local liquor commissioner recommends adoption of ordinance 72-0-11, which decreases the number of Class D liquor licenses due to a change in license class for Chef Station. Is there a motion?
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
I think that's what
Now, we did 10 and 11. We're up to 9 and 10. I'm sorry. Now we're up to 11. A11, ordinance 74-0-11, amending subsection 3-5-6K of the city code to increase the number of Class K liquor license from 1 to 2 to permit issuance to Sodexo American LLC at 1501 Central Street. The local liquor commissioner recommends city council adoptions of 74-0-11, which increases the number of Class K liquor licenses to permit issuance to Sodexo America. Sodexo has paid the annual Class K liquor license application fee and provided proof of surety bonds and liquor liability license. This is for introduction. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Been moved in second. Are there any questions or concerns? No lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, back on track. A12. Ordinance 76-0-11, amending Section 10-11-16 of the City Code to update designated truck routes. I'm going to read these, and we do have a couple of people who want to speak, so before we have to get into questions from the council, we'll have the speakers come forth. So we're doing A12, which is the ordinance for amending this subsection on designated truck routes. And could we have our speakers first? So we have Eric Thompson and Cheryl Muno. You can use either mic that you'd like.
Thank you very much. My name is Eric Thompson. I live at 1805 Oakton Street. I'm a new resident to the city of Evanston. I've been here 6 months, so thank you for your opportunity to speak. I'm not actually sure which ordinance I would speak to because I'm actually here in support of both the staff recommendations for A12 and A13.
Yes, okay.
So I wanted to speak to A12 where it may overlap with sign updates regarding proposing the change to the city ordinances to change the designated truck routes. Obviously, living on Oakton Street, I've been woken up very consistently, so I don't know if the issue in terms of the ordinance change would be shifting the truck route and or implementing A13 with a weight pound limit. I believe both are necessary. I live in a 1946 home, and it literally was built as a bomb shelter. It has 8-inch steel reinforced concrete foundation walls. My whole house shakes from about 6 a.m. in the morning till I leave for work at about 7:30, as well as my wife leaving at 8:30. They are significant disturbances that literally will shake the bed on the second floor, the first floor, and we can feel it through the basement walls. Our inspection was fine when we purchased the house 6 months ago. However, I do understand other neighbors' concerns in terms of damage to the house. So I'm here just to voice my support in terms of the staff recommending those two considerations for changing the ordinance. Thank you.
Alderman Holmes, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, Alderman Burris.
Hi, so you are definitely east of Dodge.
Correct. I am actually
Right,
4 houses east of Dodge.
Okay, I just
literally.
wanted to make that clear.
Yes.
Thank you.
And there's it's substantial traffic. And I was actually quite surprised in terms of some of the surveys that were done by my neighbors, which I'm relying on for this information, that Oakton had 764 trucks in a period of time from July 1st, 2010 through September 1st, 2010, when I was not a resident of Evanston. So I'm relying on their information. And they counted truck traffic on Oakton, Main Street, and Dempster Streets. And Oakton had 764 trucks, Main had 254 trucks, and Dempster had 231 trucks. So there's obviously a disproportionate amount of, one, truck traffic and very heavy truck traffic in terms of 30,000 pounds or larger, which are basically 18-wheel semis transporting heavy equipment into the city of Evanston. So I am here to show you my support for these ordinances.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to speak? If you want to, you can sign up. We'd be happy to have you come up, but we'll need you to sign in. Yeah. And is that Cheryl Muno? Is that, okay. You're actually, yeah, he's going to come to that one, I believe, so we'll have to.
You can sign up here.
I have it up here.
Bear with me, I only found out this evening that I was voted to speak on behalf of the entire group back there. Raise your hands, guys. And some people back in the glass room there. Okay, so I'm speaking on all of their behalf. Okay.
Can you speak more into the mic so you can get on the recorder?
Sure. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I've lived on Oakton Street since 1999. Back when I moved on Oakton Street, seeing a semi-tractor trailer truck was extremely uncommon unless it was headed to Cleason's Greenhouse or St. Francis, and these trucks were few and far between. There were no trucks from Evanston Lumber, nothing from Ozinga, and many of the other 100 or more trucks that are daily and now even nightly driving down my street were not present. From 1999 through 2006, we had a lovely home with no issues. At some point in 2006, tractor-trailer trucks began using our street, and we noticed cracks beginning to appear in our walls above the windows and door frames. I repaired them and repainted them. Over time, truck traffic doubled, and then it tripled, and then there were more, both trucks and cracks. Cracks appeared and grew as our home vibrated and bounced. Last year, our patio cracked right down its center. It was a cement slab patio. This year, we had 3 windows develop hairline cracks. I'd like to repeat that. 3 windows broke in my home from the vibrations of these trucks. It's really upsetting, and it begs the question, what is happening to the foundations of our homes on Oakton Street because of these vibrations and bouncing? We're not alone. Our neighbors to the east have also developed a window crack, and many of the other neighbors have developed cracks in their walls due to this traffic. 3 weeks ago, a piece of artwork that my husband and I have that has been in his family since the mid-1800s literally bounced off the wall to the floor and sustained an immense amount of damage. All of this is occurring on a section of street that the city has recognized and posted as a non-truck route. I've talked to multiple Oakton residents. We're all angry. We've called the police. We've called the 311 line. We want the non-truck route signs that were put up last year in, I believe, September, enforced. But for a variety of reasons, we've discussed the maps at a previous meeting here, our police are currently left without the tool to enforce keeping the trucks off the street. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of this group of residents, and we are imploring you to pass the ordinance that would designate official truck routes in the city. We would like police officers to have the tools that would enable them to enforce the local truck traffic only on our non-truck route street. We would like to keep the children safe at the 3 schools that are on Oakton, and we would like to have the quality of life return to the residents that we enjoyed right up until 2006 when truck drivers decided to blatantly ignore what Evanston had previously decided would be a non-truck route and began driving down our street. That trickle of trucks has become an avalanche. Please pass these ordinances as soon as absolutely possible. Every day that passes brings new damage to your residents' homes, and it's just another opportunity for tragedy to strike one of our children as these trucks speed down our street.
Mr. Baker? Mr. Baker, you want to come on up? My turn? Yes, your turn. And then Mr. Zimmer.
I'm learning more about this issue as this meeting goes on. My point is that I think we already have signs, and it really hasn't been enforced. I'm understanding that.
Can you say your name?
Scott Baker.
Where you live?
I live at 910 Dakota, 436 Oakton, and that's 3 homes in, and my house shakes too, actually. But my issue is really more of enforcement, and you know, I don't see that there's tools lacking, and maybe I just don't fully understand. Excuse me, but there is a elementary school here, which was something that I wanted to add about the Oakton route, is that if there's a school there and we're already marked, what's different with these new tools that would lead to enforcement?
Mr. Zimmer? These schools.
Hi, my name is James Zimmer. I live at 1101 Oakton Street. It's a little bit further up, closer towards Ridge. I've been there for over 50 years. It used to be my parents' house up there. I don't understand, yes, there is a lot of truck traffic. Yes, my house does rattle. I have stuff inside that rattles. Also, there's a section of road that needs to be repaired from Dodge to up towards Chute, and that's why the trucks do rattle, because that section of road is terrible. They've patched, repatched, and patched over again. So they probably should redo that section of road, because I even had a section of road in front of my house that the snow plows would dig up, and I had potholes. So every time either a big truck or school bus or a regular car goes through it, it would rattle the house. But there is a section from east of Dodge towards Chute, about 2, maybe 3 blocks, that needs to be redone. And yeah, that would probably solve some of the issues with the truck traffic, but I also own a tow truck. My rating on my tow truck is like 16,000 pounds. Now, if you put down a deal for saying your vehicle weight can be only, or it has to be less than 8,000 pounds. Am I going to get ticketed every time I go home?
That's a question I have too. on here.
Because that's my main concern, because sometimes, yes, I do have to take a car home. It goes to my house. I don't have a facility to put my truck in, because I'm basically just a one-man operation, and I'm just trying to survive the best I can. And I used to be a mechanic for 27 years, and unfortunately, I lost my job about 3 years ago. So I've been doing this ever since. So I've been just trying to do what I can, and I just don't want to, every time I head home, going down Oakton Street to my house, am I going to get nailed for being a ticket or not?
Well, I was just going to respond to him. I know, I understand. I was trying to let him finish what he had to say, and then we can have a conversation.
And then plus you also have the school buses going up and down the streets, and they're just about as heavy too. And you also have the recycle trucks coming in from Groot that comes through and comes down, picks up the deals. And once they're done, they go roaring out of town. Well, how are you going to do that? How do you get the recycle trucks to be able to get to your house so you can? Oh, okay. Okay. So, as I say, my main concern is, am I going to get ticketed every time I try to go home?
Absolutely, we hear you. Alderman Burris wanted to respond.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond. There's, in this new ordinance, there is a definition of what local traffic means. So, and I'll have a Director of Public Works, Suzette Robinson, discuss what local means. So you can be on a truck route if you're going local, so you would be able to get home because it would be within a certain designation. But do you want to talk about what that designation is?
Yes, good evening. Suzette Robinson, Director of Public Works. Alderman Burris is correct. You can travel up to a half a mile from an existing truck route without receiving a ticket. So based on, that's the definition of local traffic, a half mile from a truck route.
Okay, what if I get a call, say, from my house at, let's say, 1101 Oakton Street, and I have to go further down into town or something like this? That's maybe like a mile, 2 miles. Am I going to get ticketed because I got to go further into the town?
You have to get on a truck route.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the part that I don't understand, because if I have to go on a truck route, then I'm going to have to probably go out of town, go back in, and then go back into town, and then I'm going to have to charge more.
Did you get this map?
No, I did not.
Here's the map. That'll probably help you.
What's the truck routes in blue?
So,
Okay.
yeah, so from where you are, you're a half a mile, so you're definitely still a truck route.
Okay, but I know you can't, I know you're not supposed to run on Ridge.
Right.
I do know that. And, well, I can get down to Chicago Avenue if I had to. But is that a Chicago Avenue
Yeah.
truck route?
Yeah, so all the, here, sorry, I can't remember. So all the blue are truck routes and the red are prohibited. So from where you are, which is probably right about here-ish.
It's in between, yeah.
Yeah, so you're a half a mile to either Dodge or to Chicago Avenue. You could get to a truck route. But you can have that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I would say that if you had other questions, you may want to call Alderman Burris, because that would be your alderperson in that ward.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, be happy to.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak? Okay.
But we're
All right.
talking about
Well, I got
the
it.
housekeeping ordinance right now on
Absolutely.
cleaning up the, right, okay.
Well, I understand that. I have to go back and read it. I only read the beginning. I didn't forget this time. Staff recommends the consideration of proposed ordinance 76-0-11, by which the City Council would amend Section 10-11-16 to update the designated truck routes within the City of Evanston. Funding for any necessary signs updates would be provided through the General Fund Budget 2670.65115, Traffic Control Supplies. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A13, ordinance 37-0-11, amending the city code to establish a citywide 8,000-pound weight limit on city streets. Staff recommends the consideration of ordinance 37-0-11, by which the City Council would amend Section 10-1-13, 10-1-9-2, and delete 10-11-13. Schedule 13 to establish a citywide 8,000-pound weight limit on city streets unless otherwise designated. The citywide 8,000-pound limit will not apply to streets under the jurisdictions of the Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT, city-designated truck routes or prohibited truck routes. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Alderman Rainey.
I found that there are probably more exceptions than restrictions in this ordinance, and I'm just not sure that we're delivering what people think they're getting. I mean, first of all, like the man with the tow truck, what about people who use tow trucks for a living, who don't have a house where they can hide their tow truck? They've got to drive. I mean, if I know emergency vehicles are all accepted, so any emergency vehicle, no matter how big it is, it's accepted. No matter how many school buses, how big, they're all. Any buses excluded, any garbage truck, I mean, it just seems like they're excluded. One of the things I did in researching this is I went online and looked at the gross vehicle weight, GVW they call it. And it seems to me that standards are based on 6,000 pounds and 8,500 pounds. Very few standards had to do with exactly 8,000. Large pickups are in excess of 8,000. I know the contractor in my neighborhood is over 8,000. And, you know, I'm just not sure what we're going to be restricting. For example, Oakton School, and we're concerned about the schools, and there's not one school on Oakton, there are 3 schools on Oakton. Oakton had an enormous construction project this year, and I think, I would bet at least half the trucks were going in and out of there. I mean, I learned never to turn east off of Asbury onto Oakton. It just was a mistake this year. They created a lot of traffic. I just don't see, if somebody is going from one place to another and they're in excess of 8,000 pounds, there is permission in this ordinance for them to get there on almost any street. Because almost any street, like you say, is within a half mile of a truck route. So they can take that half mile down Oakton to get to a truck route. They can. And I mean, I don't want trucks on Oakton either, but I don't see that this ordinance is going to fix that.
So are you saying it should be heavier than 8,000 pounds?
No, I'm not saying, either. I'm just saying that some of the, and I understand why the whys and wherefores are there, because we have to get people from one place to another. But this ordinance allows you to go a certain distance, not on a truck route, if you're over 8,000 pounds. And there is no reason why that strip of Oakton can't be used to get to a truck route.
Can I see your map? Sorry, I gave mine up.
Yes,
Alderman Burris?
Now, it might not be the route you want them to take,
Right.
but when the cop pulls them over, if they're smart, they're going to have the regulations and say, look, I'm going the half mile.
So,
places within half a mile of a truck route.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. If Oakton and Dodge, how far is Oakton and Dodge from basically South and Chicago? That's the key. So basically, once a truck would pass, going east on Oakton over Dodge, are they within, to make it to the next truck route?
That's more than a half mile.
That's more than a half a mile.
Right,
No,
that's-
so they would have to actually either stay on Dodge
Right.
to go around, or
That's
go.
that's my
yes,
question.
Yes.
So, okay, so it would, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is would we be able to stop them from continuing down Dodge? And the 8,000 pound, wasn't there something recently passed at the state level to change to 8,500 pounds?
That's the standard that's used.
84, thank you. Thank you, yes. Okay.
Okay, so when a cop stops you, they've got to have their map out, and I think we need to make it simpler. Just saying.
I'm sorry. I was
So, no,
trying
I think Suzette.
No,
I'm
what
sorry.
I was going to say is,
Rick Robinson.
with regards to the map, the police are familiar with the map, and they know what the rules are in terms of what's a designated truck route and whatnot. So it's going to be, we have an education component of this, or a re-education component of the, I don't want to call them violators, but the major users of the non-truck routes, the Ozingas and the lumber company, that we intend to contact directly to advise them and also provide them with maps so that they understand the routes that they should be taking to get to wherever they're going, and not to use Oakton as a pass-through. So we're hoping that will deter a lot of the traffic, and then once that piece is done, then the police will enforce.
Wouldn't part of the enforcement be, though? I mean, by the time a truck starts down Oakton and you call the police, the truck is gone by the time they get there, you know, unless you have a description or get a driver's license. So, I mean, I don't see that as, that's part of the problem of enforcement.
Well, we would do the enforcement just like the cell phone ban, just like DUI. They would actually set up a zone where they would actually sit periodically and do random stops. So they would actually monitor the traffic as a deterrent, and we also are purchasing a portable speed limit sign that will be placed at Oakton, and it will change whenever they go beyond the speed limit, because that's also an issue too. It's the speed of the trucks, not the speed of the traffic, not just the presence of the truck, that also has a concern. The light, the sign will change from, if they go over 25 miles an hour, to basically just say slow down. The sign will say slow down, so it basically tells you that you're speeding as they go down. So we hope to do that, and that will be a portable, because what happens is if we leave it in place permanently, people just adjust to it and they start ignoring. So we just kind of move them around and move it back just to raise the awareness. And then that, coupled with the police, increased police presence and education, we think will also help. And the final piece, we have some break in traffic along Oakton in terms of the school zone where the speed limit increases. And so we are also going to recommend that the speed, the entire segment be identified as a speed zone, a school zone without the limits during school hours. So,
well, I want to put this little piece in, because after many, many years of trying to get things slowed down on Church Street, certainly the police will sit there and they'll do traffic stops for a while, but, you know, they leave, and then the behavior just starts all over again. And there is a 20-mile limit from, it's Lamar and Church, east all the way to, I believe it's Darrow. No, it's past, I believe it's Darrow, maybe even a little past Darrow, maybe up to Mason. That it's 20 miles an hour. But it doesn't, you can go anytime you want. And it's very, very difficult. Now, they've had that portable one sitting out there. The police have done that part, but they can't be there all the time, and that's what I really want people to understand. That even though we put these things in place, the police cannot just sit there every day, 24/7, to do that, and that makes it very, very difficult to enforce. So I just want us to be aware of that. I don't want to mislead anyone that we're going to do this and then it's going to magically change. I just needed to say that. Okay. Is there any other questions or comments? This is for
I think
introduction?
Alderman Holmes?
Yes.
The gentleman that spoke earlier has another question.
I need you to come to the mic, I'm sorry.
Otherwise, not everyone can hear you.
Could you clarify whether or not this piece of equipment that we're proposing has the ability to actually film a plate in a truck, or if it just is a passive feedback your mile per hour?
It's passive, but it also, we will have a traffic counter that will be attached. It will not film, but it will record the weight of the truck and the speed. So, and it'll do that, and we can set, there are two independent pieces. So we can actually passively monitor, say, on Church where the complaint has been about the semis. We can put the system in place, and it would just monitor the number of trucks, the timing, and then the weight. So that's, the way that we actively is we actually physically go out and count trucks. We actually send somebody out, because then that way we can also identify the company and everything else. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alderman Rainey?
Suzette, have we ever counted trucks on Oakton?
Yes, we have. We did, I'm going to ask Rajiv Dahal to come to the mic, please. The senior traffic engineer, we did go out and do a study, and I hope he has his data with him, on Oakton.
Rajiv Dal, senior traffic engineer. We did have staff count trucks in Oakton over 3 days, covering up from 7:45 a.m. to 6:15 p.m. In the eastbound direction, there were a total of, on Dodge, there were 99 trucks, and on Custer, 88 trucks. In the westbound direction, there were 130 trucks at Dodge and 80 trucks at Custer, for a total of 229 trucks at Dodge and 166 trucks in Custer. And the breakdown of some of the type of trucks we have: landscaping with trailers, 23 at Dodge, 15 at Custer; waste haulers, 15 at Dodge, 19 at Custer; City of Evanston trucks, 20 at Dodge and 24 at Custer; North Shore towing, 19 at Dodge, 13 at Custer; Ozinga concrete, 19 at Dodge, 16 at Custer; lumberyard, 1 at Custer, but we did see them use Custer northbound also and Main Street also. It depends on what size trucks they're bringing in. Other tractor trailers, 30 at Dodge and 29 at Custer, and other single unit box trucks, 101 at Dodge and 51 at Custer.
Did you note which of those trucks are exempt from the ordinance as proposed? I mean, the buses and the waste haulers.
The City of Evanston trucks would be exempt.
Waste haulers are exempt.
Waste haulers would be exempt.
Buses are exempt.
Buses would be exempt. Lumberyard, depending on their issue, which size truck, they may or may not be exempt. And then St. Francis Hospital trucks, again, depends on where they're coming from. They may or may not be exempt.
But do they say St. Francis on them?
No.
How do you know they're St. Francis trucks?
Well, if the police were to follow them, then they would have to investigate that.
Okay, any other questions? It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's been moved in, it's all in favor, say aye. Just did that. Thank you, Jane.
One left.
Okay. A14, ordinance 50-0-11, provisionally adopting, enacting and reenacting Title 3 and 7 of the the Evanston City Code. Staff submits the review and consideration adoption of Ordinance 50-0-11, provisionally amending the following titles to the Evanston City Code: Title 3, Business Regulations, and Title 7, Public Ways. Please note, due to the length of proposed ordinance 50-0-11 with backline revisions for Title 3 and 7 are included in the City Council packet, so you can read that. I guess you already did that.
I move approval of A14, please.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We had one item for discussion, which was to be an update of the cable franchise.
Yeah.
But
Not going to talk about it?
well, our time is really up. I don't know if we can hold it to the next time.
Well, when is it timely?
Is it timely? Who
Looks like
can
it's
tell us?
timely.
Who's supposed to speak on this? Joe, is this a timely item? Do we need to do this tonight?
We do not.
Oh, okay.
Joe McRae, interim assistant to the city manager. Just really quick, I can probably give you a brief update in a minute if you like. Really quickly, we've had 2 preliminary meetings with Comcast representatives to begin the Comcast franchise negotiations, one in July, one in August. We're going to be taking that up, and we wanted to inform the city council and also the community of our activities thus far, the 2 meetings that we've had, and let you know that we're going to begin that whole process. The current franchise agreement expires in November of this year, and so our goal is to get another franchise agreement in place. Currently, the individuals from the city staff that have been meeting with Comcast are the city manager, the city attorney, and myself. And so,
Alderman Rainey.
This is an item that is very of great concern to the community, and I am very surprised that these meetings have been going on without the delegation of citizens and a committee of some kind from the community. We have people who are really sharp in this community who know about franchises and who know about cable, and I would really like it if those who are really affected by it could participate in some way. Over the years, our franchise have involved the community.
Alderman Holmes, Alderman Rainey, members of the committee. The hard reality is, since last we had a franchise agreement in Evanston, the state and federal government have taken away all of the issues that our residents who are concerned about cable television can be concerned about. Really, we're down to a couple of items of concern. One is the franchise fee, which Evanston already collects the federal maximum dollar amount in franchise fees. The other is a PEG fee, a public education and government fee. Evanston already collects one of the highest fees in the area in that point. And then the last is, what else can we leverage through our negotiations to benefit the residents of Evanston? And we're looking at the high-speed internet access provided by Comcast, which is a non-standard issue. It's not an issue they normally discuss, but have agreed to discuss with us. So we're moving forward. We have been involved with the ECMC. One of their concerns with this franchise is the move of the equipment, their connection into the cable system. Currently, we're negotiating with Comcast on the cost associated with that and who would bear that cost.
All right. We understand there's been deregulation. I accept that. But could you at least put something on our website, if it isn't already there, about the upcoming franchise and why there's no point in a citizen committee?
We certainly can. And the reason it's up before you this evening was to share an update with you, to explain the issues so that we're not bringing you an agreement that's already settled and have you ask the question, why was there not any additional public comment? So that's why we're here this evening. We're happy to put that information on the website. Again, many of the folks that are concerned about these issues are involved with Evanston's Community Media Center, and we've been in touch with Mr. Bartlebaugh and his board as time has progressed.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Okay, planning and development should probably begin immediately. So.